Hey, everybody, we're back. Another edition of Revision or Revisit. I think Revisit is what I'm going to go with as a segment. And again, um, as many of you are well aware, we went from pretty much not having a chance to play this spring to all of a sudden we are gearing up and excited for spring football. And again, it's happened really within a blink of an eye, and just thought it would be a good time to get out in front and start previewing some spring football here in the state of Illinois. And very excited to bring in our next guest, representing the Prospect Knights. And, well, I've known him since he was a quarterback slinging the ball at Lamont High School, Dan DeBoeuf. And my friend, appreciate you taking time. And I was just talking about how we've gone from probably not much of a chance at all to have a season to gearing up and making plans, and it looks like we're a go. So, I mean, I know I'm pumped up. I know you're pumped up, and I can't imagine how hard up your kids were to get that news.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a really tough year on all the kids, and I think on the coaches too. And man, are we excited to have a little bit of hope here, and hopefully things continue to progress and continue to get better, so we can stay in this phase 4. But it's definitely been refreshing to see the energy off the kids. And, this week I was able to see most of our team over the last 2 days, and they're just ecstatic. So we're excited to get to work, and, hopefully we get to get all 6 in.
So was this a case of, okay, now we've got an idea of what's going to happen, well, we better get our act together and start putting things in place? Or kind of did you have a plan as you went along, or how are you managing this so far?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've had about 10 different plans probably over the last 6 months. And, with each month that we would lose, we would kind of revamp the plan. That includes our strength and conditioning piece. We did, obviously use, which a lot of programs did, all the Zoom meetings. So we really kind of went away after fall contact days happened. We kind of went away from X's and O's and football talk. We ended up doing our captains interviews. We selected 8 captains, which was the most I've ever had as a head coach. And then we broke our team into 8 groups. So what we would do is we would meet once a week, and the captains would come up with the topics. We covered things like mental health, all the way across to what a game day may look like or may not look like. We went through every topic you could possibly think of. And the cool thing was our coaches kind of got on and sat back and let our captains run these meetings. And I really felt it was a huge tool for us to keep our team as close as possible and really lean on our senior leadership this year. This is one of the best group of seniors I've ever had as far as leadership goes. And it was really awesome to see them take it and run with it, and the maturity level they had to make the most of the time we did have together. And I think it'll show when we do play. I'm really confident with where our guys will be at.
How difficult of a line was it as far as trying to stay positive, trying to keep your kids positive, yet what was going on behind the scenes? It was not good. It continued to not get good. So how did you and your coaches dance the dance of remaining positive, but also trying to be honest with your kids and say, look, this is where we're at? And, a very delicate dance, I would imagine, Dan, for you and your coaches.
Yeah, really challenging. I think the one thing that the staff and I always talked about is we did want to be honest with the kids. We didn't want to give false hope and continue to build them up, only to possibly have the rug pulled out from under them. Now, with that being said, we did focus and prepare as if we were going to be able to get to play at some point of the season or some point of the school year. And I think one thing that we had a step ahead on most programs was, the fact that we have this great senior leadership and a maturity level on our team that is extremely high. So they're able to view things, day by day, and understand that just because you work for this, and it may be taken away, it doesn't take away the fact that we're going through this journey together, even though it looks a little bit different than we're used to. It's interesting. We've been talking, as a head football coach, you usually spend between 330 and 340 days a year with these kids.
Yep.
Every day in the weight room, whether it's at practice, in the weight room, seeing them around school. And then you go from only seeing them on a computer screen. And it was strange. Yeah. And seeing our kids for the first time, a lot of them this week physically, it was awesome to see the growth of some of these guys and how great they've done with some of the things we've asked them to do.
And you mentioned the senior group, and I think what was interesting is I had a chance to see you in 2019, and you could see, I think I mentioned to you after the game too, that you could see your kids had really kind of bought into your program, and you could kind of see the wheels turning a little bit. Your kids look more comfortable, that like offense in particular, they look a lot more comfortable in 19 versus 18 running your system. And you could just feel that momentum coming on. And it's one thing to have senior leadership. It's another, Dan, to have seniors that have experience as well.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what makes this group so special is, when I came in 2 years ago, really getting the foundation built, and we were able to get those 5 wins and get into the playoffs, and then they continue to build that group. Most of them played as sophomores, continue to build. And then as juniors, we had a pretty nice season going 8-3 and, maybe a player or two away from having a really nice season.
Yeah.
With a close game and with Meadows in the second round. So we're really happy with where we're at. And, I can honestly say our momentum has not stopped. With the amount of productivity we've gotten out of all our meetings and with the way our kids look physically right now, I really think the momentum has continued to grow. And I think that this experience will only make our team grow together and be able to continue to take those steps forward.
And we talked about the talent, and, besides being seniors and having experience, you've got some talent. And again, you're talking about what I think 6 or 7 or 8 starters back on offense.
Yep.
5 back on defense. And I mean, I can go through most of your kids. I mean, Luke Zarzan's one that, I had a chance to see over the fall at camps. And you talk about a kid that has physically changed. Dan, that kid has physically changed.
Yeah, I mean, he's the perfect example of, what stinks for Illinois kids this year is he's one of the youngest kids in his class. So really maturing. I mean, he ran for 1,800 yards last year as a junior at really about 180 pounds. And he's bouncing between 215 and 220 right now. And it just looks like a completely different human being. And super excited to watch him play basketball. And then to see what he can do on the football field this year is going to be a fun thing to watch. And wherever he ends up landing college-wise, I mean, he's a kid. His mindset is so strong right now that wherever he ends up, he's going to make the best of that scenario. And he's a special kid, one of the best I've ever coached.
Yeah, and you've got your kind of kid at quarterback. I mean,
Yep.
Gary Moeller is just a scrappy. He can do a little bit of everything. And once again, Dan, we talk about that experienced leadership, and it's great to have it under center.
Yeah, I think Gary, he's a great athlete, multi-sport guy, throws the ball really well, runs the ball really well. But his biggest attribute is what he's got between the ears. Mentally, he knows our system inside and out. And he's the type of kid that, he could run the whole show himself. He could call the plays himself. He could run the whole thing himself. And I think another thing that gets overlooked quite a bit, and I'm not sure if it's a skill that you can necessarily teach, but his ability to see the field, where, you see a high school kid getting to the 3rd and 4th progression and being patient in the pocket and making small movements in the pocket. He's definitely one of the best that I've seen. I do think if he was 3 or 4 inches taller, he'd be getting a ton of big time looks.
Yeah.
If you ask any of our coaches in our league who the best players are, I mean, his name is always usually the first that comes up. So really excited to see him at least get a chance to go and do his thing. And he's another kid physically where, he probably played at 155 pounds last year. And, he's worked extremely hard to get bigger and stronger. And he's going to be a force.
2 starters back at receiver as well, Noah Marks. And Tyson Splinter's a kid that I found really intriguing last year, Dan.
Yeah, both of those guys, very different players, but both studs. Tyson's a big kid, 6'3", 6'4", just over 200 pounds, a guy who can really go up and get it. And he's a guy who can play all positions too. He'll play in the slot some for us. He'll play on the outside. He'll play in the backfield a little bit. And then Noah's kind of the opposite. He's all a 5'7", but every time he has the ball in his hands, you hold your breath. You watch his highlight tape and, every now screen, every bubble screen, he has the opportunity to take it to the house. And he's another guy that is super smart on the field. So he knows every position. So he could play running back. He could play number 3, number 2, number 1. And that gives us the ability to do a lot of different things and move those two guys around. And it's tough for a defense. I know some teams had difficulty with him last year with the amount that we moved him around. And then,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and then at receiver, we've got two guys sliding in that are really special as well. Owen Walter, who will be a junior, he'll slide in for us at one spot. And then we have a sophomore who's one of the most naturally gifted players that I've seen, as a sophomore playing varsity hoops. Tomahawk Duncan. He's actually probably our fastest player on the team as a sophomore right now, and that's Frank Covey. He'll play receiver for us, but he's a quarterback, so he'll take some snaps back there and then take over for the future. But with those 6 skill position players with the ability to score on any play, we are super excited to play some offense with those guys.
Already got Covey on my list, pal. So well aware of him already. Again, you talk about depth and talent and experience, offensive line, 3 starters back. Mm-hmm. Sam Tasalis is an intriguing kid. That's a 2022 kid on that line.
Yeah, and we had some really good players up front a year ago with, Micah Sahakian going to Cornell, and then Sebastian Swistak went to Eastern Illinois for track. And I think if you ask our offensive line coach who our best was last year, and that would have been Sam as a sophomore. Super talented kid, very, very athletic for how big he is. He's a guy that's drawn some strong interest already. Had some Power 5 schools earlier in the year reach out about him. He's a guy that, we'll see physically how big he does get. But he'll be one of the best players in our league up front for sure. And then the other guys we have returning up front are good players as well. Matt Pankowskis is another big body who has a ton of experience. Eric Malinowski is a guy who's played for the last 2 years quite a bit for us, another big guy. And then the guys that we have sliding in are going to be good players for us. So we feel really good about where we're at with that unit for sure.
Defensively, as we mentioned, 5 starters back. Who kind of stands out to you there?
Yeah, our back end, this will be one of the strongest secondaries that I've had. And Coach Jeff Collier, who's our defensive backs coach, and Brock Collins, our defensive coordinator, have done a phenomenal job developing those guys. A couple returners we have are Jake Winsky. He was an all-conference defensive back for us last year. Wes Newman is another returning defensive back. Gino Paredes is another returning defensive back. So feel really good about our back end. And we do have some new faces. We've got a sophomore who did not play football as a freshman, who has the opportunity to be one of the better corners that we've had as a sophomore, really tall, track speed, good player. And then outside linebacker Peyton Berg is a name to watch out for. He started for us as a sophomore last year. Super talented kid, and a kid who's changed big time physically. And then our other mainstay on the defense is our middle linebacker, Josh Greshik. He a super tough kid. And the way I explain him to people is, he went out for wrestling just to get tougher and wrestled a really tough weight with 0 experience and got better and better throughout the season. And he started every game for us in the middle last year as a sophomore. And we're, he's our guy that's going to run the show for us out there. So excited to have him for 2 more years.
As far as the lower levels, have you been able to get a handle on that? And I know that it seems like people have all kinds of questions now that all of this is going down. And again, cannot preach enough the fact that, hey, a lot of you guys are trying to get this figured out just like everyone else. So what does it look like right now as far as the lower levels, just handling how they're going to have their season and what have you with the conference?
Yeah, I mean, we're planning on playing all levels of football. We're trying to figure out if we're going to, last year in our league, our side of the league, we played our freshmen and our JV games on Saturdays. So we're going through those details of, are we going to play the freshmen as a prelim game, or are we going to play it on Saturdays? I think the biggest challenge probably for all programs across the state is usually your freshman staff is big-time multi-sport people who are coaching other sports. And 3 of our 4 freshman staff are all coaching either baseball or wrestling. So we're going through that to balance out of how we're going to make those transitions work. And really same thing goes for our varsity and JV staff. We have a big influence in our track program, And our track coach, Jay Renault, does a phenomenal job of working directly with us. And, I think if you look at the numbers out of the 136 guys we had in our program last year, I think we were sitting at 115 multi-sport guys. So anybody who wasn't doing anything, we would at least get them out for track. We love them to wrestle as well. And we think that those things work out really well. We've got some baseball guys too. But that'll be a balancing act for us is, staggering practice times, whether it's practicing before school, after school, or a little bit later under the lights. But I'm excited to go through that process and, hopefully spend more time with our freshman group. And that's been tough up to this point with all of the protocols that we've had to follow.
Yeah, it's interesting that, we talked to some coaches as far as the lower levels where you mentioned multi-sports, and obviously the smaller the school, the more juggling they have to do and making sure. I think if anything good comes out of this, Dan, it sure seems to me like, not that there wasn't cooperation there before, but I think as far as those multi-sports, look, let's face it, you have to cooperate now.
You have to. No way. And, we had a staff meeting today with all our coaches in our building. And, the general consensus is, hey, let's do right by kids. Let's work together. And, every coach at Prospect in all sports has been phenomenal to work with this year. And we're all coming together as a family and trying to provide the best opportunities for kids that we can. And I think that's all we can do at this point. And I think it speaks a lot when the kids can see the adults working together genuinely. I think that rubs off on them in the school in a good way.
So a little birdie happened to drop your schedule off to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's out yet. Have you guys put it out yet or no?
We do have a Mid-Suburban League Conference meeting on Thursday. So It should be official after Thursday.
All right. Well, I don't want to get you in jail with the conference, so I won't release your schedule. But just thoughts. I got to imagine it's just going to be your side of the division. How is the conference kind of looking at figuring that all out?
Yeah, it's looking like at this point that we're going to play our East schedule, and really the only thing that's up in the air is that Week 6 game. So there's a possibility of an MSL crossover, a possibility of some different things happening. So we'll see where that goes. I'm really excited to be able to play the East. I have a ton of respect for the other coaches in the East. Coach Pardon over at Hersey has obviously turned that program into a really good piece. And then now Coach Baker taking over at Rolling Meadows. I've been friends with Coach Baker for a while. We've talked in the past and met in the past. So it'll be fun to compete with them. And Buffalo Grove, Elk Grove, their programs are growing and getting better and better. So it should be an awesome competition. And, I think the biggest thing for us is, we haven't won the East since 2010 outright. Yeah. And our kids know that. And that's definitely our goal. And there's a couple programs that are right at the top. And, we're working our butts off to try to get there.
Yeah, and I think the one thing to come out of this too is, and I don't know if it's going to last or not, but it's unfortunate. Everybody wanted to play a 14-game season and play a state championship. But look, the reality is, I'm thrilled you've got 6 games, and
100%
that we're able to try to get your and really, Dan, to me, it's all about your seniors. Who in the world wants to end their high school career locked on the sideline and not being able to at least get a chance to get out there one more time? And they can't be really stressed enough when it comes down to this. At least from my perspective, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I agree 100%. As soon as I heard that we had an opportunity to play any games, even if it was one, I was ecstatic. And with how competitive our league is in the MSL East, the opportunity to try to play for a conference championship still, that's a huge motivation for us. And that's been a goal of ours since I've gotten here. And we're super excited to be able to do that and have that opportunity in front of us. So our kids couldn't be happier. I've heard nothing of, oh, I wish, there'd be a state series. I wish that. We're so focused on just the actual fact that we may get to play football games. Yep. That the rest doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who we play. We're going to have a freaking blast with it.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, appreciate you taking time. I know you guys are going from 0 to 100, which is no surprise. That's what you guys always do. But
yep.
Even more curveballs thrown your way, but you guys will hit it out of the park like you always do. And again, got a good feeling about you this year. The next couple of years, you definitely got the program headed in the right direction. And go out and have fun, will you?
Yeah, we're gonna do our best to have a blast and enjoy it.
All right, Dan DeBoeuf.